Welcome back to the neighborhood, and thank you so much for listening. Really, without you, the listener, this would pretty much be pointless. So, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to our thoughts on video games. We really appreciate it. On this episode, we are taking a look back at the last 50 episodes / year of the podcast and our YouTube channel and discussing that for a bit. Then we're going to be answering questions we got from our community on Discord. So let's dive in. Welcome to the podcast where three longtime friends talk about video games from the average gamer's perspective. My name is Andrew Kimball.
I'm Dylan Wren.
And I'm Aubrey Summer.
And we are your friendly neighborhood gamers.
Before we get started, I want to say that if you want to be part of big community discussions like this, you need to join our Discord. That's where we gather these questions. That's where we interact with our community. That's where we're in talking about what we've been playing and stuff like that, music we're listening to, movies we're watching, that kind of fun stuff. We're also on social media and would appreciate a follow, but that's mostly for like show updates and, short form clips and things like that. If you actually want to be part of the community, hang out, be part of episodes like this, join the Discord. We have a link in the podcast description. With that being said, I mentioned in the intro that we're looking back over the last 50 episodes, but that's because we did one of these at episode 100 as well. We are technically at episode 150. Now, if you look at our website, I think it's a little bit more because it counts our like intro trailer episode thing we did, and it counts our Christmas specials. I think one of those we slotted in as like a real episode just because it fell on our normal Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the other ones have been like bonus episodes.
Yeah.
So technically speaking, it's like 152 or 3 or something like that, I think at this point. But like regularly scheduled episodes of the podcast, we are at 150.
Mm-hmm.
That's exciting.
Yep.
I was about to make a like Game of Thrones. I've hopped on, here late in the game and whatever, but I don't think, this is facing an imminent crash and burn quite like Game of Thrones did when I hopped on.
Well, about that.
We are at season 8.
So congratulations, guys. That's a big accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Aubrey mentioned that you jumped on closer to the end, but still you're part of this. So
I'm complicit.
Yeah, right. We're going to look back a little bit at some of what we've done over the podcast this last year and the YouTube channel. But the main focus of this episode is we reached out to our Discord community and we asked them, we just opened up the floor and said, ask us anything. It could be gaming related, content related, whatever. And so we got a nice list of interesting questions from our community that we're going to be going through, and that'll be probably the bulk of the episode. But I did want to kick it off taking a look back, a little trip down memory lane. This year was interesting. We made some changes. We kind of like tweaked the formula a little bit. We still did a few interviews. We did some actually really awesome interviews that I enjoyed. We had Kevin from the Gamer Parents Pod. We had Sam from Fake Gamer Girls. And then we had Seth Campbell, who is the author of the Eldritch Depths book series.
Mm-hmm.
And then right before this, we had our friend Joe on, but we actually kind of talked to him about the stuff he does in the World of Warcraft community. And that was like kind of a mini interview / nostalgic trip down memory lane talking about WoW. So did less interviews this year, partially because we were experimenting with other types of content, partially because we had a couple fall through. Scheduling can be tricky. We had various things across all of our personal lives that happened this year. So it's a lot easier to keep the train moving forward when we can just collaborate with the three of us versus if we have to bring in kind of like that additional party, it makes it a little bit trickier. So, but I definitely wanted to shout out the ones that we did do because I thought they were really good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had a lot of fun getting to talk with all of them. So,
yeah, I mean, the couple that I was on, obviously, I enjoy talking to my husband. So,
one would hope.
About WoW with Joe was obviously, pleasant to be on and to dig into a little bit more. Because I hear a lot of info about it, but sometimes without like the context or like a specific thing like relating to just like a conversation we're having or something along those lines. So approaching it from a top down like that was pretty fun. And then the neighborhood watch with John was a lot of fun. He did a much better job plugging our YouTube than I did. And then we just mind melded for that 100 questions thing. It was like by question like game 3 or 4 or whatever, like, okay, we got our questions down. Was it this? Is it that? Is it this? Is it that? And like run through all the diagnostic ones and then branching out. It's a good time.
Yeah. And that leads me kind of into the next thing that I wanted to shout out from this past year. Like we didn't do as many interviews, but we still had some fun collaborations. You mentioned John came on for a neighborhood watch. We had our fantasy critic again going on with the Wait For It crew and Jay Davis. We did both of the Final Fantasy VII remake games with Caleb this year. That was quite an undertaking. Those are some big games.
Oh, yeah.
And then we had Dave Jackson join us for our Shadow of the Erdtree episode because we had to get Dave on if we're going to be geeking out about the latest FromSoft Souls-like game. Souls game, not like... God forbid.
Yeah. How dare we?
How dare we? And then, we had some really fun episodes with like our local kind of crew that we bring on as well. Braden joined you guys for Baldur's Gate 3. We had the whole party show up for our Casting of Frank Stone episode. We did 35 questions. We did Super Mario Wonder. Joe joined me on that one. And actually my daughter did like a little interview at the end of that episode.
So cute.
So we had some fun collaborations and people come on the show, even if it wasn't like our interview format this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't, officially a part of the crew. I was, God, how did Braden?
That's true. Aubrey guested for Hellblade, and she guested for like a handful of episodes before we were like, you want to just join?
Yeah, you keep coming back. You might as well just show up weekly.
Yeah, just be on it weekly. Just just in case Dylan decides to get real sick again or yeah.
Did you join before or after we decided to do a Dark Souls month?
That was after. Dark Souls month was back in April. It was
okay. I couldn't remember when we did it, and I was like, did we have you join and then immediately like, hey, here are 4 games that you've never played. Like, do you want to talk about them? No.
No, I was not on those. No, I guested for like 35 with Delaney and Abby, and that was fun. Watching, I mean, not just the questions, but watching the like your satisfaction when we got out of the like 50 questions that you guys had pulled that Delaney was just like constantly complaining about, and then got to the ones that you guys wrote and she was like, oh, that's a good question, and like actually like really fully engaged with it, and watching you be like, yeah, you have to be such a pill for the first 60% of this. Like,
yep, because that's how she is. She won't listen to this. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, you alluded to it, but we added Aubrey to the show officially this year. That was a big change, adding a third member, getting that new perspective. So that was, I think, has been good. We mentioned the Dark Souls month as well. That was one of the experiments, I guess, we did this year where we did a month on the Dark Souls games because ironically we hadn't talked, like they were the only From games we hadn't really like done a deep dive on outside of Demon Souls, which is also very similar. So we're like, what if we just, since there's 3 of them, we'll just do kind of a whole month. We were hoping that maybe Elden Ring's DLC would come out around then and it would like tie into that, but it didn't. And then we planned it for a month that had 5 Mondays. So we had to come up with like an additional episode.
Whoops.
So that was a fun experiment. But then we tried that for Halloween, like for October, we tried to do like more spooky themed content that month. And then we did our game swap most recently where we did that theme for the month. And so I think those have been pretty fun.
Yeah.
I haven't really gotten any outside feedback on them, but I think we enjoyed it.
Yeah. I mean, especially for the game swap month, it was fun to have that, just that challenge of like, hey, this is a little outside your bailiwick. I'm not, diagnosed with anything, but I do. Never heard that term.
We just like both look at each other like, this is why we brought her on.
I feel like we're back with Caleb and his bindle stick or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
His spindle and his kerchief. Yeah. No, like, your bailiwick, your area of expertise.
You're just using the same thing again. It's like your bailiwick.
It's a term. It's, outside your area of expertise / interest. It's not something you typically engage with or know about. Like I said, I'm not diagnosed with anything, but the outside like deadline or challenge or whatever really helped me like dig in, and having that like it's more than just your particular in like interest or engagement or whatever, but actually brought me back to those games and gave them like a real solid shot.
Yeah.
Versus like sometimes you start something and you get like a half an hour in, you're like, oh, this isn't really clicking. You just like set it down and go back to your phone or whatever. And that's really not fair to a lot of games. So
yeah,
that was nice.
Yeah. The game swap was, like you said, it was a fun experiment as far as, pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones is how I would say it. But it was, there were definitely times where I wanted to play something else besides the games that we had like assigned each other, but it was like, got to get this done for the show first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, but I enjoyed, like the specific months. I thought that was something fun, and I feel like it's probably something we'll go back to, whether it's like, I don't know, just finding some sort of theme, whether it be future game swaps, that's probably going to happen. But, obviously we're not necessarily going to do a Dark Souls month again, but
it would be very different if we did it again.
Yeah, I could see us doing
like talking about doing. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, I could see us doing like a Souls-like month again, where it's Andrew is like, I have curated this list of 3 really good Souls-like games that I'm going to have you play. Or, there are other like series that are out there. Like, I think it could be cool to like, it would take some doing because they're a lot longer games, but like the Tomb Raider reboots, I could see being like a fun thing to like play through, or the Batman Arkham games or something, something like that, where it's got like 3 or 4 in a series that could be kind of cool to look at. An Assassin's Creed month, so
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like doing that idea. I think the Dark Souls month was fun for that, and I think it was also, I think that those are the oldest episodes out of this experiment that we've done, but like they have been doing pretty well numbers wise for what that's worth as well. So I think if you kind of latch onto a series that people enjoy, then they can kind of follow along with that month. Whereas the
Pokemon
game swap was the game swap was very all over the place. Pokemon month will be easy because you can just play one
and then just re-release that episode every year. Release 2 of them every Monday for that entire month. But it's like one is the first half of the episode and the other's the second half of the episode. And you have to listen to both to get a complete episode. So I'm sorry, Emily.
Just release identical episodes, but we're all wearing different colored shirts.
Yes.
No, they're like, it's the same episode, but you do the outro in a British accent at the end of one of them. And you gotta like see which one.
Yeah, so more themed months probably in the future for the show. We enjoyed doing that, so it'll probably be a format that we revisit. And the last thing that like I wanted to kind of shout out about this year was our Elsie content, where we were actually approached by the Platonic like PR team, PR representative ahead of the game's launch, given some promo stuff to do like a preview. Granted, like most of the pre-release stuff was accessible to anybody if they cared to go look for it. It was like just a demo on Steam.
Yeah.
But once we did that and made the video, we got some feedback from them that they liked that video and stuff, and they wanted to know if we were interested in doing like a proper review. So I got to go through the whole embargo process and got stuff behind the scenes as far as like gameplay clips and information and trailers and like all the artwork we used for the like our thumbnails and stuff like that for that was all art that was provided by them, which was really cool. So that was a fun, talk about being out of your comfort zone. Like I was playing that game ahead of launch, couldn't look anything up if I got stuck or was confused about something, and then had to finish it by a certain day if I wanted my review to go up on like the embargo lift, and then had to actually write it. And Dylan helped Dylan did all the editing for the review. And then I put together the like tips video that I made and put out there. And both of them, I think they definitely weren't like our top performing videos of the year, but I think they did pretty well.
They did.
They're kind of like in the middle of the pack as far as like the numbers that we get on our channel. We either have one that does like super well or one that gets like 14 views. And this was kind of in between those.
Yes. Yes. So they both are, or all three are like the preview and both of the LC videos are in our like top 50 videos of the year. So, which also includes a bunch of like YouTube shorts that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Oh, they count those.
Yeah, they count those, which, if they didn't, I feel like it would help.
Yeah, that kind of like tweaks the average a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was about it for the podcast that I wanted to shout out for this year. Before we move into like the YouTube side of the house, is there anything that I missed or anything you guys wanted to bring up from the last 50 episodes?
I think on my end, we mostly covered all of the things I could think of on the like podcast front. So,
yeah, I would agree with that. I think so.
Well, a natural transition is that we decided, or we started putting the podcast on YouTube this year.
Mm-hmm.
We upload it there now, the audio with like gameplay or trailers or something.
Yeah.
Typically try to line it up with what we're talking about. Sometimes it's just whatever Dylan's been playing that he has a long block of gameplay for.
Yeah, I don't know what will be
visual element.
Yeah, I don't know what will be running for this podcast because we're not talking necessarily about a specific game. So we will see what you get for this. Maybe it's going to be some Marvel Rivals. Maybe it's going to be me beating my head against the Call of Duty Zombies wall. Who knows? So
who knows? But those, I think, in some episodes have done better than I was expecting. Some do about what I would expect, but I do feel like I noticed a little bit, like I could see the YouTube stats going up and pulling from the like podcast stats. Cause like I know Aubrey, you in particular said that you listen on YouTube, which means you're probably not listening on a podcast app anymore. So like there's definitely a little bit of the audience that must like moved over to YouTube, which has been cool to see. I wasn't really sure if it was going to be worth it, but it so far I think has done fine.
Yeah, and it's one of those where a big part of that decision to move or to start putting it up there was, well, one, I think YouTube started pushing it, so we were like, okay, well, let's try to get on there and ride that algorithm. But then some of it too was just it is a place where they can listen to our podcast. And if they subscribe, then they're also subscribing to our, our YouTube Shorts feed. They're also subscribing to our video feed and all of that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, oh, well, that's kind of a nice way to like build some subscribers. And also like, there's definitely, like you said, some people from the podcast might have moved over to YouTube because that's their preferred platform. But there are also, for a lot of the episodes, people that look like they probably never would have listened had it not been on YouTube, So it's a nice little, it doesn't really take a whole lot of effort on our ends. Even, like we could just have it upload with no real background imagery, but even putting some like trailers or something in doesn't take that much effort on our end. So it seems like a worthwhile thing to do. And there definitely are some episodes that have gotten some good views or listens, or I don't know what you call a podcast episode that people watch on YouTube. If it's listening,
still counts
watching,
as views, but...
whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, like, I know there were a bunch of people that listened to our Baldur's Gate 3 one on there. So,
yeah.
And so that's been kind of cool because it's been like a new group of people that we are getting our stuff out to. Video wise, it's been kind of cool too. I think we've had over like 175,000 views this year alone. So that's pretty neat. And I know we've had like 5 videos, I think it is, that's like over 10,000 views currently, which is kind of neat. It's nice to feel like we do it because it's fun. We enjoy making that. Like I enjoy the editing process, and we kind of like we enjoy putting the videos and stuff together. But it's also nice when more than 100 people watch the video. That's kind of cool. So
yeah, it's very validating.
Yeah. So we've kind of shifted around. Like we've tried a few different things with the videos throughout the year. Some have found success, some have not. We still are at the point where we're just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. We can release 2 videos that on paper to us look very similar, as far as how they're framed and the production and all of that kind of stuff. And they can do drastically different things. So we're still trying to figure some of that out, but it's been nice. We reached our 500 subscriber milestone this year.
Oh wow!
And then we're at
creeping up on 1,000.
Yeah, we're at 7, almost 800 now, I think. But we're shooting for that 1,000, which is where they start running ads, and we can maybe start making pennies on the dollar per view. So,
wow.
It'd be nice.
We got to the point where we can I just recently went in and set it up, but we have the members and we can do super chats and stuff like that. I'm we haven't promoted that or pushed that or anything because it's not
World
something
premiere.
We're really yeah. It's not something we're really trying to push, because to really unless you just want to go in, it's like having a Patreon tier that's just, hey, you guys like us, support us. That's what it is right now.
Yeah.
You get some stickers or whatever. But we're not offering anything really additional. We're not at the point where we're ready to commit to putting more content and effort into something paid.
Yeah.
But we did get the ability to set those things up. And then, when we hit 1,000, then monetization opens wide up. So it's been cool to see that number tick up. We do this because we like it, but part of what I like is seeing those numbers go up and seeing the fact that, people liked the video I made. And so, it's been really cool to see. Recently I put out the video of 5 under the radar games that I think you should check out. And it didn't get a ton of comments, but from the time that video launched to, I guess, now, it's you could see the subscribers going up, which means that had some sort of a correlation, but not necessarily. There's older videos getting views too, but it's sometimes a video would go out and it'd only get a handful of views or something, and the subscribers wouldn't really change. And it's
Yep.
And like Dylan
Yeah.
said, it's like, it could have been like a very similar format or idea, but it just didn't catch on for whatever reason. So
Yeah. Well, and sometimes the videos, like you put them out and they get like a handful of views. And then like 8 months later, it's like 12,000 views out of nowhere. And it's like, I don't know
Right.
what happened. I don't know what we did. We didn't change anything. So yeah, it's playing the like, what does the algorithm want game is interesting. But like we said, we've been refining it. We've been like playing with like how we do the videos, trying some like different, like Andrew, I think, started his like Souls like review series this year, maybe late last year, but
no, I think Liza P went up in like February, and that was
Yeah.
the first one.
and so it's, you know, kind of like playing around with some of that kind of stuff where it's been fun to do. I got to make my favorite video that I make every year is the Destiny Buyer's Guide, just because it is a cluster and a half how they sell that game, and I like breaking it down and being like, do not buy this. This is not worth it. Buy the whole pack that's on sale for less than each one of these would be individually, you know? So
Yeah,
that's
it's a very helpful video.
I enjoy making that one. And then answering, basically just being people's Google for like the entire rest of the year, where they're like, does this come with this pack? Let me Google it for you. Sure. That's engagement, you know? So
That is.
So
Yeah, I've kind of tried to niche down because I think that's one of our struggles or obstacles with our YouTube channel. I think it's part of what's fun about just us experimenting and learning, like learning about YouTube, learning about video production. Like I think that's ultimately like been the funnest part of it all. But like we cover basically everything. And so a lot of people go to specific YouTubers for specific content, and we're kind of like a smorgasbord. And so I've tried to, one of the things we talked about early on this year was like maybe coming up with some specific things we aim at, like reviews for older games, but in the context of like, is it still worth playing? Or my like Souls-like thing of, hey, if you're like me and you're still really into this genre that a lot of people are getting tired of, here's another one, and is it worth your time? And so like, I did one on Mortal Shell that did really well. And then I did some on like Steel Rising and Thymesia that just like kind of stalled out. And so you never really know what audience is out there looking for those videos or is underserved. I mean, I'm sure you could do a lot more research than we do. We just kind of like, I want to make this video, so I'll do it.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a point. There is a part of it too where it's just kind of like, we're not doing this as our jobs. So it's kind of just like, this is what I'm going to enjoy making right now, so I'm going to. So
Basically.
Yep.
But yeah, it is interesting too to kind of like some of the trends that I see is like when we do a game specific video, like every time big sales roll, or like we've been getting a huge boost to some of these videos during Black Friday because it's like people jumping on to look for a recent review of a game that came out like 6 years ago to be like, is this a good game to still play? Should I do it? So we've been seeing a lot of some of our videos on older games getting kind of a boost from like the big sales like that.
Yeah, when my 2 whole videos that I wrote and put out, I've definitely got to narrow in my focus because I enjoy listening to long, wordy like video essays that talk way too much about things and dig way too deep into it, and those are hard to make. So mad props to the Lindsay Ellis's, the Lady Knight, the Braves, the My Little Thought Trees out there that are putting out this content on a regular basis. But like my motivation was literally like, I've searched on YouTube Spiritfarer video essay, and it's the same like 5 videos that come up, and now there's 6. Like, did it only get 17 views? Yes, but now there's 6.
Yep. So far, 17 so far.
So far. Just needs to go on sale again. Maybe, 31 Immortals, or what's the next one? 32?
33. You were almost there.
You were close. Just keep counting up.
Maybe 33 Immortals will, be a big game for them, and it'll steer people back towards, not that Spiritfarer wasn't a big game for them, but.
Well, Spiritfarer just went on sale on Steam. I picked it up, so.
Hey.
Maybe it'll get a boost from that.
We can do
Nice.
co-op. I can be Daffodil.
Oh, yeah. That might be kind of fun. I also have some other ideas for bigger videos like you were talking about, Aubrey, as far as more of like retrospect, not quite video essays, but like more retrospective or like, why is this game special to me kind of things. And I've got one that I'm like in the like it's all, the pieces are done. I just have to put them all together.
Yeah.
So
no, you start with like these half-baked thoughts and you're like, how do I sew this together into a coherent...
Well, I mean, literally, I've recorded all the gameplay and I've recorded my script and edited it. I just need to actually put the pieces together. I just haven't
literally
done it.
sew it up.
Yeah, so stay tuned for that. That may be one of our soon down the road videos once I sit down and actually do it, because I want to go in there and tinker with the edit. But
yeah,
I've been pretty happy with YouTube. I think it's like I'm pretty sure we've mentioned this before, but like the podcasting is our, like, we've been doing this forever kind of thing, it feels like, whereas YouTube is like our new experiment with this project. And I think every year we learn a little bit more and try a few different things and see a little bit more success with certain things and a little bit more growth. And I think as long as we're having fun and, there are people still watching and enjoying it, they will keep doing it. So
yep.
Nice. So you guys ready to move into the community questions?
I'm ready.
All right, this should be fun. So, the first question we got was from the real Dave Jackson, who we mentioned earlier joined us for our Shadow of the Erdtree episode. If you want to go check that out. Also, check out his show if you like really long, in-depth conversations about games, and similar to what we were talking about on our YouTube conversation, like a lot of his episodes or games that he talks about are not like brand new. So there might be an old game you love that he's covered.
Yeah, I'm super excited for his Control episode. So
yeah, it's going to be good.
Yes.
So his question was, each of you tell us a fun thing about the other two that's not related to gaming. Could be a funny story, could be a fun habit or quirk, whatever you like. Which we're just kicking this thing right off with one of these. So I have one about Dylan.
Interesting.
Okay.
And it's kind of a recent one, but Dylan DMs our D&D group, and he is consistently, unintentionally saying like euphemisms.
Yep.
And
he just pauses at the worst moment.
Yeah, his inflections and
look.
So that was one that came
Really
to mind for me. Was
really good at derailing us.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't need any help. So
Well, it doesn't help that like as I'm saying the things, I'm also thinking
You
like,
hear
oh,
it?
this
Realizing
could be
it?
taken some kind of way, and I'm so I have to look at like Braden and Andrew and see if their eyes have lit up or not. So that like,
yeah, anytime we like look at each other, it's over. So yeah, that one came to mind to me for Dylan. For Aubrey, it's like there's just too much to choose from. Yeah, it's like
Right.
we've been together since we were like babies. So like,
Right? There's so
do I tell a
much.
story about you chucking a dollhouse at my face, or
It's a good one. We're all three of us quite musically inclined. This relates back to like video games the tiniest bit. Not the tiniest bit. We played a lot of Rock Band when we were teens, but like Dylan, shocking. Dylan does play like guitar and bass, and Andrew and I took piano lessons for many, many years. I am kind of self-taught on the ukulele, and Andrew learned guitar chords and stuff and has been like in and out of dabbling with that. But all three of us can sing too. It's just only one of us is willing to do it out loud and not in a rock band context.
I was going to say, I sang quite a bit in Rock Band and Guitar Hero, but you know, usually there's some social lubrication that's happened.
Yeah.
And
true.
And Dylan could hit all the notes in Rock Band. You just couldn't hear him hitting all of the notes in Rock Band.
Singing quietly.
Yeah, very occasionally he'd be on the mic and you'd see the little line. It's perfectly accurate and everything, but you couldn't hear a sound coming out of his mouth.
Yep. You know, we also play with Rock Band fairly loud. So
there is that.
I don't know how your daughter slept through all of that. That's
There's some solid walls and conditioning.
Yeah. Trying to think of my stories. Like Aubrey, it's more of like tangential stories because Aubrey, we called like my Sunday sister, basically, because pretty much every Sunday after church, she would come over or like my sister would go over to her house or she would come over to our house to hang out with my sister. And then Andrew, I'm trying to think, like there are several stories. Like one, obviously, like during the height of Lord of the Rings, you know, running around in the woods with sticks.
Yep.
I forget if we attempted like film at some point.
There were films attempted by various groups. Hopefully none of them will ever see the light of day. But
yeah. Like there's that, and then I distinctly remember one of our first video game experiences was the Lord of the Rings The Third Age game, where we were our parents, I guess, were just hanging out because it was super, like it got to be pretty late at night that we were still up there playing it, but we were like in the dark.
And it would like to party as we figured out as we got older.
But there was like we were in our game room, lights out, and like that game has random encounters, and so like we'd just be walking around and then all of a sudden like the eye flashes and like you hear like the like Sauron or whatever, and so you know that was
it was like consistently jump scaring us because random encounters every time on the screen. It would just be like a flash of the eye and it would do some sort of like sound effect with it. And I don't think either of us really played a lot of games that had random encounters at that point. So it was still just kind of like we'd just be walking along kind of on edge and then it would pop up and we'd both just kind of like jump a little bit and then we'd do the fight and then we'd go back to walking around.
Yeah,
I mean, video games have been kind of the bedrock for a lot of this friendship.
I mean, we've played a lot of board games together over the years too.
Yeah, I remember introducing Delaney and I don't know if it was introducing, but I remember at some point while you guys had an apartment together, like I came and visited and had The Sims 3, and I'm pretty sure like I was there, but you guys just played The Sims 3 the entire weekend and then purchased it yourself to play after I left.
Forget you. No, I remember one time you came down to visit us and I was making snickerdoodles and it was like, make them like, you know, about like a heaping tablespoon, and I just like scooped whatever felt like and rolled it into a ball and they spread like crazy, and basically it was like 6 giant snickerdoodles, and I was like, oh, well, this didn't work out quite like I thought. And you came in the kitchen and like, I see no problem with this. Like,
nope.
this is a giant ass cookie. This is wonderful. But yeah, God, I remember like you teaching us how to play like, what was it, Quirkle way back in the day? That was probably like
maybe
the first of the like not like Clue, Monopoly kind of like
board games.
And I was trying Pathfinder way back when.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was somehow a more complicated
roll diplomacy
D&D.
to get roll diplomacy to get this tavern keeper to give you the quest, and we're like, what are you talking about? How are we supposed to do anything? Yep. That's my factoid for you, Dave. We're all musically inclined.
Cool. Well, I think we covered that pretty well. Aubrey jumped off a swing set when she was like 5 trying to fly like a gargoyle and she broke her elbow.
I was 4. I was like
4.
4.5. It was October. Yep.
Specifically, the animated Gargoyles TV show was her
Yes.
inspiration.
Yes. And I wasn't trying to fly. There was very bad 4-year-old math involved where they made a point in that show that they don't fly. They just glide down.
They glide,
and they have
right.
to like climb up the skyscrapers to get back up because of their density and everything. And so that plus Aladdin made me think if I held my baby blanket out just right and I jumped off, I'd just glide the 6 feet off the swing set to the ground. Nope. I think I'm the only one. I know I'm the only one in our family to have broken a bone, but I feel like even in our pretty immediate circle.
Yeah, like our friend
Don't
group.
put that kind
I
of
was gonna
thing
say,
on
knock
us.
on wood. Knock on wood. Like, yeah, the only
They
other
managed
person
to
I
get
know
away.
is my daughter who broke her pinky
Mhm.
like earlier this year.
Yep.
Yeah, so
Jumping around, little bird bone thing.
yeah, so there you go. There's
Yeah.
fun
And
stories.
now I have a tattoo of Goliath from Gargoyles, voiced by Keith David, that sits just
What
below
isn't
my
Keith
scar.
David in?
He's incredible in that. So yeah, that kind of filled out my half sleeve that I've got going on. Is Goliath down there? I joked about it for a long time, and then got enough tattoos that I was like, yeah, let's tattoo the gargoyle on my underneath my scar.
Did you see that they like remastered the old Gargoyles? I think it was like a Super Nintendo. It was like an old 2D game, but they remastered it late last year, early this year. I put it on like my wish list because I kept meaning to like either just gift it to you or tell you about it or something. But I think it's on like all the consoles, probably on Steam. So I don't know if it's a good game or not, but
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't stop me. I feel like I've
fair enough.
I feel like I maybe heard about that. That seems like vaguely familiar, but that could just be, who knows.
All right. Well, in the interest of time, let's move on
Yep.
to our next question. John with no H, who is John Haig, who we talked about earlier as well, who is the host of the newly relaunched Video Game Lounge podcast that you can go check out if you would like. He posted the question. Looks like he's got 2 questions here. One was, outside of gaming and podcasts, what other hobbies do you 3 have? Do you do any together? Which I think we kind of covered that a little bit in the last question. Like I don't know if you call music a hobby, but we all did music. We all play board games, play D&D together.
Mm-hmm.
I can knit, I needlepoint.
I was going to say,
little
like,
diamond painting.
if it's not
crafts,
nerdy
doing
like that, I don't know
puzzles.
that
Yeah.
we do it together, but we all
Yeah.
do have other hobbies.
Play a lot of Magic the Gathering.
Nerd.
I like playing golf when I get time for it. I really enjoyed having a motorcycle before I had 2 little kids. So ever since I've had my 2 kids, I haven't had a bike, because mostly just because it wasn't practical to like leave work and go pick my daughter up from daycare. It's like, okay, I could ride my bike to work, but then I got to take it to the house, park it, get in my car, go to the, so it was just like, I stopped riding, and then just now the season of life I'm in, it's just not practical, but eventually I would like to get another motorcycle.
One day. Got into paper crafts. Delaney gifted me one of those cardboard, or like, it's not quite woodcut, but it's like a bookshelf insert type thing, and you assemble it and you glue all the pieces in and arrange them just so. And so it's this little like potion shop or whatever. And so I watched 3 seasons of various different animes and just like sat and worked on it all evening long, gluing them down and putting together. So like paper crafts like that, like bizarre little minutia, completely unpractical and unhelpful. The more non-functional it is, the more I'm like, yeah, this seems like a good thing to get into. I could get into sewing. No.
Dylan, did you have any others you wanted to mention?
No, I think we mostly hit mine. Board games, RPGs, guitar. Yeah,
Music, magic, and board games.
basically.
Oh, baking.
Also, like
to bake.
horror stuff, but not like mostly horror podcasts. I listen to a
Mhm.
lot of those. I don't know if that counts as like a hobby, but like horror books and horror podcasts. Some horror movies, as long as they're I don't particularly enjoy the ones that are just like shock and gore fest. Like that is the reason they exist ones. But
yeah. Well, and like just kind of media analysis type stuff, video essays, and I like listening to people talk about stuff they care about.
Cool. His follow-up question, or his second question, was, if each of you could fully embody a video game character for a day and live in their world, who would you choose and why?
I don't know. I could go two ways with this. Like, there's the way of this question that's like, oh, I want to, have a cool, like, be a monster hunter and like get to do all that kind of cool stuff. And like, there's a part of me that's like, oh yeah, that would be kind of cool to like live in that world for like a little bit. But realistically, probably my Animal Crossing character, honestly, like at 33 years old. Yeah, sure. I'd be an Animal Crossing character that has their house paid off and just is chilling on this island with like their job being go pull some weeds, pick some fruit. So sell these radishes,
catch a shark.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, like my knee jerk was like, oh, I mean, like a day on like Stella's boat, like running around and taking care of the spirits might be kind of fun. Not Lara Croft.
No.
Especially not like mid-adventure. She suffers.
Well, see, that's my thing, is like, how far do we take fully embody? Because I would love to be Spider-Man or be like Kratos for a day and just like have those power sets and just like do what they do, play around in their world. But like, am I taking on their trauma? Because both of those characters have a lot of baggage and problems. So it's like, if I can just like inhabit their body for a day and like just, have Kratos's brutal strength and like fight off some like woodland demon creature things or fight a dragon, or if I can swing around the city as Spider-Man and maybe fight some thugs, yeah, that sounds great. But if I actually have to like take on Peter Parker's responsibilities for that day, it's like, I don't know if I want to do that.
that whole great power, great responsibility thing?
No. No, I'm just a temp for the day.
Can I be like Link, but like on the day, like the tutorial in Ordon Village in Twilight Princess?
Not like the day before the adventure starts. Yeah.
I'll herd some goats. I'll ride a Epona. Okay, my pick is either Sphinx or the Mummy from Sphinx and the Cursed Mummy.
The Mummy? No, thank you.
I think like the Mummy's powers and abilities would be a trip. He's very much like a scared and do it anyway type situation, which I can appreciate, but also he can't die, like
because he's already
dead. He's the Mummy. So he goes through some interesting stuff, or just like running around in that world or setting of like a really ahistorical ancient Egypt. Would be pretty fun.
Nice. Our next question comes from Matthew Bliss, who has so many projects to plug. Like if you, I'm not sure which ones he's current on right now. I know he does a bunch of podcast editing stuff. He had a gaming podcast for a while. He has a podcast, like a coffee with a podcast editor or podcaster. Like he has all these different cool ideas and projects that he's always bouncing between. So definitely, I would just go talk to him about that in our Discord if you're interested, or go check out his stuff and see what he's got going on. But his question was, would you rather only pick one game per year to play and it costs no money, or get every game ever when they release, unlimited play, but you have no thumbs?
So I immediately thought about Caleb and his siblings when the no thumbs thing came up.
How Alex would hold the controller back in the day.
His younger brother Alex would hold the controller and he'd wipe the floor with us in like Smash Bros. Like it worked. But yeah, he would hold the controller to where like his thumbs were on like the D-pad and the little like C stick. And like his pointer finger would control the actual like directional one, and he'd be like hitting buttons with his pointer finger on the. It was
Yeah, he had like his
wild.
middle fingers on the triggers, which moved his pointers up to like the buttons and the control sticks, which,
Mhm.
you know,
It was.
Did like the claw grip or whatever.
yeah, like I think there is a name for that grip. For me, this question's super easy. I want to keep my thumbs. As somebody who recently, or somebody who's on their third playthrough of Lords of the Fallen, has like over 100 hours in it, I think I could be okay with only picking my one game per year. It would be a bummer if it like didn't click for me, but if it did, like I have hundreds of hours in Bloodborne and The Witcher, and so I think that option's actually not too terrible for me. I think I'd be okay, and I like having thumbs. So
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of adaptive equipment out there, and there's definitely ways you can adapt to like not need your thumbs to play, especially on PC.
Yeah, but then you have to play with a mouse and a keyboard.
And
Ew.
but then also on the other hand, like gotten back into WoW, and like I've definitely had moments where, you know, I just play Spiritfarer for 3 months straight, or like I have no problem like clicking with a game that like just and go. But I think losing my thumbs would negatively impact my life in a lot of other ways. So I'll pick World of Warcraft and just try and get on my husband's level.
Mm-hmm.
With thumbs.
Yeah.
With thumbs.
I think it would help it. Like I would want to discuss, like the only reason this would like really suck is if, you know, the one game you picked turns out you just absolutely hated. And then it's like, well,
you picked
my game for
Suicide
the
Squad,
year.
Kill the Justice
Yeah.
League. It's just like, oh
Exactly.
no.
And you're like single-handedly keeping that game alive for the year.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was going to say, like, on the one hand, like, Elden Ring, like, put so much time into, like, this coming up year.
Monster Hunter.
I'm probably just going to play Monster Hunter Wilds the entire year, you know? So, like, there is that. On the other hand, one game a year, you know, it's not really, like, a great cost, like, money proposition, because it's like,
Right?
you know,
it's free. Again, that's why I'm picking WoW.
yeah,
Like
I was gonna
that
say
for free for a year. It's a pretty good deal.
yeah, World of Warcraft, where you're paying $15 a month, you know, maybe, but
It's The Sims 4 with all the expansion packs.
yeah, because there's another part of me that's like, Xbox has made like really great strides with like the adaptive controllers and stuff, you know, maybe every single game ever, you know, but yeah, I'd probably pick just the one game and have thumbs, because even
We're all
though
boring.
yeah, even though like the ADHD in me is like, but I want other games, like I would play way less interesting single player games, I guess is what I will say. Like I don't think I would play Alan Wake 2, just because
That wouldn't be the one game you would pick.
yeah, exactly. Like Baldur's Gate 3, I could probably like get plenty of time out of, but I'd probably lean more towards things like Destiny 2 or World of Warcraft or something like that that just has so much content that you could spend a year doing one thing in WoW and then still not have touched parts of that game, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then like Baldur's Gate 3, you could do each of the different characters' origins. You could do the Dark Urge. You could try and get their good, neutral, and bad
Yeah.
endings. You could like try each class, each race, combinations.
Yeah,
Honor
some
mode with
RPGs
each
are like
class.
the way
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
if you're not going multiplayer.
Yeah.
The other benefit would be, you know, since you can only play one game per year, and there's probably at least 2 or 3 that release in a year that you're interested in, you'd always probably have something to choose from that you wanted to play for the next year. It's like, oh, I
that's
picked
true.
this for this year, but I couldn't play that. I'll play that next year.
Exactly. You get
You
to
just become a speed runner for like
yeah.
Ghost of Yotai or something. You like, that was your one game you picked, and it's just like, you know, that game inside and out by the
Yep.
time the year is over.
Exactly.
I can see the code.
Yep. You start making like money off of like speed run videos on YouTube or something, and then it's like, yeah, whatever.
You just find like every glitch and exploit and become the expert of whatever your one game is that year. It could have benefits.
You're going to dominate GDQ.
Our next question comes from Phil the Filipino, and I think he might have a podcast or something. So you could go, try to find that if you care. He is one half of the Wait For It podcast. Definitely go check those guys out. His question was, what's something you wish you could tell yourselves 150 episodes ago, whether it be for motivation or learning purposes? Yeah, this one's tough because 150 episodes ago, I was pretty motivated. I was pretty on fire. So for me, it'd probably be learning purposes wise. It would probably be, I guess, sticking to the episodes on the podcast side of things. Maybe I would just tell myself to embrace the experimentation and the different ideas that we've had, which I think I've done, but definitely lean into that. I'd also maybe tell myself you're gonna get through college, it'll be okay.
Yep.
Because finally coming out of the other side of that made this passion project so much more enjoyable and easier again. So
yeah, I'm trying to think, because you for the podcast, for me, a lot of times I just kind of show up. I don't you do all the editing and stuff. What comes to my mind is stuff on the YouTube side where it's there have definitely been videos that we've put out where it's the end product is there, but there's something in that end product where I was I know that this video editing software can do this thing. I know that this is possible. And then there's 8 hours of me trying to figure out how to do the thing in the video editing software.
Right.
And so it'd be things like that where it's here's how you do this thing,
Right.
So,
let me give you the rundown on all the tricks that I've learned.
Exactly.
Here's a tutorial.
Yeah.
I'd tell myself to carry around a small notebook, and anytime I had an idea for a podcast topic, no matter how half-baked, just write it down. Because the meetings we have about upcoming episode ideas or stuff with that, and I'm trying to come up with stuff in the moment is silly.
Well, you can still do that. Get a notebook because we got a meeting coming up.
I know.
Yeah. Or
my advice for me now.
Yeah. The other thing I think of with this question is go back and tell myself what's going to happen in 2023 so that I don't have to play Death Stranding. So that I can win the predictions episode.
We didn't even touch on that in the look back and be Death Stranding was a highlight of the year. Just wait till I win predictions again this year.
Right. So, go in and be hey, make these predictions or something, or go back and be yeah, you do need to play a Plague Tale. You do need to go ahead and do that one.
Do that sooner. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Good questions, Phil. Appreciate it. Next we have Starlord07, who is a member of our Discord community. And he said, if you could take any player from one video game and place him in another game, who would it be and why? Given any special abilities that character has in his own game would be given to him in the next.
My first thought was Kratos in the Tomb Raider games.
Just smash through everything. Yeah, well, that's kind of what I was thinking is take some overpowered character and put him in a more boots on the ground realistic game.
Well, and I'd want him to just be there helping Lara. Just give the girl a break. It would make her story far less interesting, but also, girl, you deserve a cakewalk. Just let Kratos obliterate them.
Yeah.
I think I would put Darth Vader and Yoda into Soul Calibur. Oh, wait. No. I'd put Geralt into Soul Calibur. Oh, no. Wait. Maybe I'd put Link into Soul Calibur.
That would be... There's a thought, though. I'd be interested in, Raphael in, a Final Fantasy type game.
From Soul Calibur or the
Soul
Ninja
Calibur.
Turtle? Oh.
Yeah, from Soul Calibur. No, not the Ninja Turtles. It'd be nice to I don't know what he'd bring to like that specific story. I guess I just
Probably a character like him in a Final Fantasy game already.
Oh, almost certainly. That's probably why I made the link. But like something, I don't know. I'd like to see more of those character stories actually, but that's not the question.
I put Donald Duck in a Final Fantasy game. Oh wait.
Yeah. That'd be interesting to like. There's a few that come to my mind. Like number one, I think like a Monster Hunter character in a Souls-like or a From Software game would be kind of cool because it's like you're still going fighting these big bosses, but you have a lot more. You're not necessarily going to just die in a hit.
About it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, and you don't die, you faint. So you can't actually.
Nice.
There's another part of me that's kind of like it'd be interesting to do the take Master Chief and have him go into like Metroid, have Samus go into, like just kind of like games that are
Swap
very
out some sci-fi characters.
Yeah, like game or like take all the Mass Effect characters and put them in like Dragon Age or vice versa. It'd be interesting to,
Yeah, something where it's not like a total fish out of water moment. I just cracked myself up with the thought of taking Senua and putting her in Animal Crossing.
Those poor villagers.
Yeah.
Or like Disney Dreamlight Valley. Who is this talking pig?
She would like black out and think they were all demons and just like start hacking away.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
She thinks she's in a Souls game and it's actually just Disney Dreamlight Valley.
Right.
It's not a demon, it's a duck. His name's Scrooge. He just wants your money. Ah, bless.
Yeah, I like your idea, Dylan, of like swapping Master Chief for Samus or vice versa, because like
or like Doom
it'd be kind
guy.
of yeah, like to see how somewhat similar archetypes would just like kind of handle the other's universe. Because yeah, there's definitely the other side of this question that's like, yeah, what if we just put like big overpowered dude in like, like you put Doom guy in Call of Duty or something, and he's just like,
yeah.
just
Doom guy
running through,
might
just
be in Call of
destroying.
Duty, actually. I don't know.
Well, yeah,
There's been
like,
a
probably
lot
in
of
the
crossovers
multiplayer or
recently.
something. Yeah. They just put Geralt in Naraka Blade Point.
Yeah, I did see that, and I was like, I wonder if Andrew's reinstalled Naraka at this point.
No. Last time I installed that game, I was just like way too overwhelmed with the menu and stuff, and was like, yeah, this game has kind of jumped the shark.
Yeah, I did reinstall Fortnite because Godzilla is in it. So
yeah, I saw you playing that the other night. And I saw your post in the Discord, and I was like, maybe over Christmas. Starlord had one other question. He said, where do you see yourselves at 300 episodes? Will the gaming community be better or the same? 300 episodes is a long way from now. Theoretically, we'll make it there. I imagine we'll all be a little bit more tired, a little bit more worn down by life and children, but I imagine we'll probably still just be talking about games we like if we're still doing this show.
Hopefully we'll be talking about The Witcher 4, maybe some other they are working on it. We probably won't be talking about production. We probably won't be talking about the Elder Scrolls 7 or 5 or 6 or whatever.
Yeah, Elder Scrolls. And then like I saw something, I don't remember, YouTube thumbnail or something the other day that reminded me that I think Monolith, the Shadow of War people, were supposed to be making a Wonder Woman game that was like announced years ago, and we haven't heard anything about that. It's like we might not be playing that game.
Yeah. But yeah, like Andrew, I would imagine we're still probably like getting together talking about video games that we enjoy. I'd like to think that after another 3 years of this, maybe we've hammered out some more of the bugs. Maybe we found, some, kind of like this year, we kind of experimented around. I'm sure we'll still be experimenting. So maybe 3 years on, we'll have found some more things that give us the dopamine and, that we have fun with. Hopefully I'm slightly better at editing videos 3 years from now. So.
Yeah, I think like ideally I would like to see us having maybe found a groove or a niche that like works with us and our audience to the point where we have grown enough for the show and the YouTube channel to like sustain themselves. Maybe we can start putting some like resources back into our content, like having it kind of grow on that level. That would be ideal. You know, if we're still doing this, but we found like that sweet spot, that groove where like it can start to grow beyond where it is now and actually start to kind of feed into itself monetarily and then maybe back into our pockets even a little bit. But just, you know, give us that, or hopefully having like we're doing a lot of experimentation on YouTube, like you mentioned, and then some on the podcast too, but maybe I don't want to like get locked into only doing one thing. That's not what I'm saying, but like just finding that sweet spot of like, oh, we've found what really clicks, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and like a good like workflow rhythm, like a format that's sustainable and still like fluid enough to be creatively engaging, but something that we know, like, okay, I'm gonna like commit 5 hours on this Saturday to hammering out a script and recording and getting it like sent off, or you know, that sort of a deal. I would love if we got more like previews or reviews or stuff like that. More stuff.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
And like kind of cutting edge would be really cool. I think the community will be much the same as it ever was. And
Yeah. I was going to say, hopefully our community is great and better.
Yes.
Not that they've been bad up until this point, but gaming as a whole, the gaming community, probably not. I would hesitate to say better.
I don't know. I don't anticipate it'll change too much. And I
Yeah.
think it'll be as it ever was and largely determined by your own kind of engagement practices. And I don't know, it'd be cool to find more like niche communities to engage with, because that's probably where like you can find healthier gaming conversations, kind of like our own. Like we're incredibly niche, but obviously unmoderated spaces will just, you know, turn into a shit show every time. So
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the Switch 2 ends the console wars and everybody just gets together and sings Kumbaya and plays their video games in peace. And, you know, I doubt it because they won't fix their store, but, you know.
Did you see the video of the South Korean protesters calling for the impeachment of their
Yes.
prime minister after he declared martial law, singing like "Time for Impeachment" in Korean, but set to Feliz Navidad?
Yes. Yes,
I
I
not
did see that.
No.
It's incredible. I'll send that to you, Andrew. It's crazy.
I think that like the industry right now is in a weird spot of like the COVID boom is now coming down. Studios are closing, like things are consolidating. So I definitely think that there's just kind of we're in a transition period for whatever that means. So in 3 years, will that have kind of evened out and the community maybe evened out along with it, calmed down? Who knows? I think that, like you said, people are always just going to be people. And I think that in a hobby that is this broad, like you were saying, it is just kind of like you find your slice of that community. You know, you can either argue with the people that you don't agree with, or you can just kind of engage with the ones that you do. And as far as like what we do, I would hope to, see our community grow and see. I think that we strike a really good balance of being like a place you can kind of come hang out and talk about games and stuff, but also we're not really like busy or demanding a lot of your time or anything. Like our Discord's not
spamming content
nearly
or
as
anything like
active as a lot of the ones that I've seen. So, you know, I think the answer to the question, will the gaming community be better or the same, is basically going to be subjective. Like that's just going to be your opinion on like, you know, the lens you're
What's
seeing it
wrong
through,
with it
where you
now or
stand.
not.
Yeah, things. So hopefully things improve, and hopefully like the whole industry just kind of starts to even, because I do feel like we are in kind of a bit of a crash at this point. The industry is dealing with a lot of issues it's never had to before.
Mm-hmm.
The price of games, you know, the live service, you know, trend that they're all chasing, and things are not working out for them. Studios are closing. Development's taking way longer than it ever has. So I do think that things are going to shift, which is going to make the community shift. So we'll see how that all shakes out. And in 300 or at 300 episodes, like that's a decent chunk of time. I feel like things will be different at the very least, but can't say for sure whether they'll be better or not.
So very different and so very much the same.
Yeah, I mean, things are cyclical, so.
There will still be people out there defending The Last of Us Part 1 remake. So, you know.
Yeah. It'll be The Last of Us. It'll be The Last of Us Season 1, the game.
Oh. Oh.
Our next questions came from Katie, that is Katie Shesko. She has been on the show a few times. We've interviewed her. She came on for our Tears of the Kingdom, I think was her most recent appearance. But she plays the flute and does video game music on the flute and
streaming. Yeah,
she streams as well. She does like speed runs and challenges and stuff in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So really, really cool content, really cool stuff she's got going on over there. Definitely go check that out. Her first question was, who is your favorite guest and why was it me?
We love all of our guests the same.
Except for Phil and Eric. No. But then she followed up and said, but in all seriousness, which game do you wish you could experience for the first time again? And this one is not going to be exciting, but it's definitely
Let me guess. Like, The Witcher 3.
It's either The Witcher 3 or it's like any of my favorite Souls games that I've played. Like Elden Ring again would be fantastic. Bloodborne would be fantastic. So it's any game that kind of has that sense of discovery and learning and like getting absorbed into a world. You know, that was what I really loved about The Witcher. And then with Souls games, it's kind of like learning the enemy placements and learning the level layouts and learning like what weapons are really good or what spells are really good, and then kind of like optimizing that as you go. And then with like Elden Ring, it was just like all of that on crack. I think that the Breath of the Wild is probably up there too. I remember playing that like a year or so after it had launched, and I finally got a Switch and just being like the blend of the like kind of nostalgic things they pulled from the old style of Zelda, but then this one being so different from the old format or structure of a Zelda game. It was just really, it was a big breath of fresh air when I played that game. And it had that kind of sense of discovery and adventure and stuff similar to what Elden Ring did for the Souls games. It was like a lot of this is very familiar, but because you've placed it in this open world structure, it feels fresh and unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think those are great choices. And probably like I definitely would love to experience some of those again. The two I'll throw out there are like Monster Hunter World, just because the exploration and discovery and just like finding all of the new monsters in that was such a big part of it that like, okay, once you've seen the new monsters, it's kind of like, oh, okay, you know, now it's not as fun to like that sense of discovery is gone. Or like a game like Control, or like something like that, where it's just like I loved that world, and I loved just like exploring and discovering stuff in that, you know, I did go back and recently replay that game this year, but experiencing it for the first, like you can't recapture experiencing it for the first time. If that makes
once
sense,
you kind of know what happens, it's not the same. Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting because like a lot of the games that had such a big impact on me were also such like a time and place thing. The emotional catharsis that like Spiritfarer offered me was also very much in time and place of it being like mid-COVID. I'm full-time at a job that's just sucking the soul out of me. Like I've just barely started going to therapy. Like, so the thought of like, would it hit the same now? And then also, I don't like necessarily want to be back in the headspace I was in when I experienced that, or like say Night in the Woods. I don't know. I've never actually played it, but like A Way Out would be a cool thing to experience. Like the twist at the end of that for the first time while actually playing it.
Yeah. Or just like
fun,
not knowing that twist was coming and playing through it or something. Yeah.
I mean, there's still a supreme satisfaction in watching other people experience that twist for the first time. But
yeah, Joe's still salty about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Games like that that have like a twist, or like, I mean, it's similar to Control, where it's like you're kind of going through this weird thing and kind of piecing things together, and then by the time it's over and you've got the full picture, like then going back and replaying it is not the same. You know, like a BioShock Infinite or something like that. Like you're kind of playing through the whole game, wondering like what's going to happen. And then once it does, it's like, well, I could replay this and like it'd still probably be pretty fun, but it won't be that same experience.
That same like sense of discovery. Yeah. I mean, I'd love, and I'd probably get a lot of the same satisfaction out of playing like Arkham Asylum again, because it's been so long since I played it that regardless if it'll feel like the first time again.
So it does help as we get older. You probably can just replay games and it's pretty close to.
Yeah. There's also a lot of objectively excellent games that I should be playing for the first time. Period. True. So I feel like Red Dead Redemption 2 would really kick me in the ribs. I just have to like commit to sitting down and playing a 90-hour game.
Yeah.
Hey, you just got to make it through the
60, but
just got to make it through the first 45 hours and then it gets fun.
It opens wide up. Now the game really starts.
It's more like probably 4 hours. You got to get out of the mountains. I mean, that part, like on your
Breath of the Wild. Also haven't like
in Red Dead, if you're fully into that world and like committed to that adventure, the beginning is fine on your first playthrough. But it's like on a replay, it's like a forced tutorial that goes on for a long time, basically.
Yeah.
So. Cool. Our next question comes from Colin, another member of our Discord community, who asked, what game did you refuse to buy, but when you finally broke down and bought it, you actually liked it? This one's tough because
there's a lot that I don't like.
I don't know
typically,
if I've ever broken down.
Yeah. Well, and I think there's some where it's like, if I want a game, like I typically do buy it, and if I'm not interested in a game, I'm not like looking to go buy it. I'm trying to think of like one that's maybe like come to like Game Pass that I wouldn't have played. Like Fortnite is maybe one. I didn't buy Fortnite, but like I do think that I probably held off on playing Fortnite for a while just because of the like reputation it had, or just kind of the like like whatever. But I've gone back to it now, like I'm playing it currently, and it's like, this is a really solid third person shooter. Like this is fun,
Yeah.
I'm not super like influenceable when it comes to games, like, oh, everybody's playing this and they love it, and like, certified cozy gamer over here, but none of like My Life and like Poly or like any of those like cozy games like Botany Man or all of those that they're like, oh, it's the the best or whatever. And then when it does click with me, it's like so random.
I did like Death Stranding more than I thought I would.
Yeah, but that's also like the bar was in hell for that, Dylan.
That's true.
It's not impressive that it managed.
That is a game that I did refuse to buy for a long time, and then had to buy it. Pokemon Arceus, whatever that one is. I did buy that one. I did enjoy that game. I don't feel like I was like holding off on it, but Pokemon in general is a series that I generally hold off on,
I think of games like Days Gone, which I kind of knew I might like, but hearing about it was like, I don't know. And then when it was finally like $20 or something, I picked it up and like actually really enjoyed my time with it. Or Marvel's Avengers, which got like panned, and when it finally hit Game Pass, I played it and was like, campaign's pretty good. Like once I beat the campaign, I didn't really keep going. I was thinking maybe like Dark Souls because I tried that game, didn't really like it, but it was really like Bloodborne and I always was kind of interested in Bloodborne. That was the one that kind of got me into the genre, and then going back, like Dark Souls 1, I still don't really love. Like that's not one of the ones that I think of because I don't have the nostalgia for it. But I can't really think of a game where it was like I refuse to buy, or like I actively don't want to play this, and then somehow it ends up like in front of me with a controller in my hand, and I'm like, actually.
Here's a roundabout answer. I should have held off on buying it rather than buying it at launch, but I don't regret buying it or playing it. It was Gotham Knights.
Yeah.
Like, shouldn't have bought that at launch. That's not a $75 game at all.
It came to Game Pass too.
I know, it's like that was a $30 experience right there at most. But had a lot of fun playing it, had a good time with Andrew. Don't regret any of the time I spent in there, and like I don't carry the disappointment of that.
That was one where like my expectations were in check, like going into it.
Yeah, like I didn't expect it to be spectacular or terrible. Like it just was one I should have held off on.
Yeah.
I feel like
this question is tough because I feel like the opposite way I could give a lot more answers where it's like there aren't
like this but didn't.
Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of games where I'm actively like I don't think I'm going to like this. Like we are lucky that we live in a time where there are enough games out there that I pretty much never run out of games that I am interested in purchasing and playing. That I get to the point where I'm like, I don't really know about this game. I don't want to buy it, but let me give it a shot. You know, for the most part, the games that I purchase are like games that I'm interested in. And there's definitely been ones there that have been like, oh, I thought I was going to like this and now I don't, you know?
I have an answer for you, Dylan, and for every other person that's listening to this probably.
Interesting.
Plague Tale.
Well, I didn't refuse to buy Plague Tale, though. I guess is the
but it was just like it was like me saying for so long, you should check this. Like you should play this game, you'll like it. And it's like, writing it off. And then when you finally get to it, you're like, oh yeah, you were right. And I feel like pretty much anybody that I've told that about that game, I would agree, like would end up feeling the same, but still just they're like, man, maybe I'll get to it someday, maybe not. Like
like that one sat in my backlog for a very long time, so. I'll give you that. It wasn't a refusal to buy situation. It was more of
Yeah, I'm kind of taking the question as more of like kind of putting it off maybe because for whatever reason. Because like, taking the refuse to buy like very literally. I don't know that situation has really come up. But like the writing something off, that people say you're going to like, or that you might even think you might like or whatever, and then when you finally get around to it being like, man, I should have done this sooner, I think that situation has probably happened more often than like refusing to buy something and then eventually getting around like playing it.
Dragon.
I feel like I'd eyeballed Lost in Random a couple times on Game Pass and been like, oh yeah, like I should download that, and then like shelved it.
Dragon Age 2 and Mass Effect Andromeda both probably will fit that bill when I eventually get around to actually playing through them completely. More for like the sat in my backlog for forever. So
cool. Yeah, good question. And then the last thing that we have is from Caleb, a member of our Discord community and voice on this show, who said, why didn't you pick my question that I didn't ask in time and never thought of? But seriously, congrats on making it to 150. To which I responded, Caleb, we haven't recorded this episode yet. You can still submit a question. And he said, oh, dang, I got to think of one. Hold on. And then never thought of a question. So, Caleb, get your life together. Love you, buddy.
The best character in Mario Kart is Baby Peach.
Interesting. I always just pick Mario.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't know. His question, I assumed his question would be like, who's your favorite Mario character? Who's the best Mario character?
He might just be like, what element is like the best boss in a Mega Man game, or like some obscure thing that none of us really have
no context for.
I always played as Dry Bones when I was playing Mario Kart on the DS. Like for some reason, Dry Bones was my character that I always went to. Probably because he was like the edgiest Mario character. Because he's a skeleton.
I played Mario Kart Wii the most, and that's when they introduced Baby Peach. And yeah, I don't know. Picked her and ran with it.
Double Dash the most. So the best Mario Kart.
Nice. Well, that is all of the questions that we got from our community. Thank you all so much for writing in with your questions, making this episode what it was. We greatly appreciate it. Like I said at the start, without the listeners, without the community, like this would basically just us be talking about video games.
Yeah.
So being able to actually turn it into a community and turn it into something like this that people engage with is really cool. It's really awesome. Wouldn't be possible without you guys. So thank you for your questions. If you want to be part of this, join our Discord with the link below. We have a channel where we've been asking questions and stuff to the community to feature on episodes. And then every now and then we do a big one like this, which is like very community heavy. So as far as the podcast, a little bit of housekeeping. Coming up on the show, we're going to be doing our episode on the Keeleys Game Awards, talking about that show in all of its glory.
Yeah.
We're going to be discussing our predictions, results from this year, and our predictions for the upcoming year. We're going to be doing our own effing Game Awards for the year, talking about the games that we love this year and, you know, things that surprised us and whatnot. We do that every year. So if you want to see kind of how that's formatted, you can go check out some of the previous ones. And then we'll roll into Fantasy Critic stuff as well. Like it's that kind of end of the year, start of the new one where we get to revisit all of these fun formats and topics that we do. We'll be incorporating Aubrey into them. So we'll have to figure out like how we want to do like predictions, results, and required game and stuff like that. Some behind the scenes things we want to talk about. But yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Hope you are as well. Dylan, what is going on YouTube?
On YouTube, we are still putting out the podcast on YouTube. So if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, please consider giving us a like or subscribing if you're not already. The plan is that we will be having probably a video on like auto battlers that I have been getting into recently coming out. I think this week, actually, when this episode comes out, I think it'll come out. And then we will also probably be rolling into some
like
of
our game of the year stuff.
Yeah, we like to do kind of like a game of the year situation. And so there will also be a big Fantasy Critic video coming sometime soon. I don't know exactly when we're recording that. Before we will be recording it very early in January or before. So, because we have to
exactly.
Basically, it depends on what like the first game that comes out that it feels like people would pick it when that is. That's kind of our deadline. So
we missed out, I think, on like Prince of Persia this year because of when we recorded. It was too late, but yeah. Aubrey, anything for the people as we bring this thing to a close on this very special 150th episode?
Oh,
no pressure.
For the people.
Yeah, you know, you want to talk about like pet medications or headlights on your truck or
or, you know,
or lifting the elderly off the floor if they fall, you know, just the random things that you like to talk about.
Oh, yeah. If a loved one falls and hits the floor, you shouldn't move them. Call 911, let the fire department come and handle it, and make sure they haven't hit their head, get a CT scan. Yeah, shoot, dang. I don't know. Y'all be nice to each other, okay? If nothing else. Not nice, kind. Be kind to one another.
Cool. Piggybacking off of that, thank you all so much, very much for listening, and stay friendly, gamers.